On a warm California morning, tourists sip lattes on Ocean Avenue. Just 1 block away, a woman wraps herself in a blanket outside a yoga studio, not to meditate but to survive another night on the street. Santa Monica was once called a seaside paradise. Today, it's a city where luxury condos rise above crowded tent encampments, and where the people serving brunch can't afford a bed to sleep in. So here's the question. What does it say about a country when the very people who keep a city alive are the ones forced to live outside it? Number 1, the illusion of paradise. Walk down 3rd Street Promenade on a sunny Saturday, and you'll see what everyone sees. Street performers, tourists striking poses, and tents. Not the camping kind, the kind people live in. Just a few blocks away, Venice Beach tells the same story: sunshine, surf, and survival. In Santa Monica, the presence of unhoused people isn't an anomaly, it's a permanent part of the scenery. Santa Monica, known as a playground for the creative class, is now one of the most unaffordable places to live in the United States. As of 2025, the average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment has surpassed $3,300/month. At California's minimum wage, barely above $16/hour, even a full-time worker is priced out. Someone on a fixed income. I used to be a school librarian, says Linda, 68, as she folds a wool blanket under a bus stop bench. When my husband died, I couldn't keep up with the rent. I used to live 2 blocks from here. Now, I sleep behind the library I once worked in. Imagine being a single mom working 2 jobs at mornings as a waitress, nights as a cleaner. When rent devours 70% of your paycheck, every decision becomes a gamble. Medication or groceries? Electricity or bus fare? Or maybe sleep in your car? This isn't just a temporary crisis, it's the product of a system stretched to its final threads, where wages stagnate, housing costs explode, and the safety nets are full of holes. I'm not lazy, I'm not an addict, I just can't afford to live, says a young man folding his hoodie outside a shuttered storefront on Montana Avenue. It's easy to overlook these tense background noise in an otherwise picture-perfect city. But each one contains a story, a layoff, a diagnosis, a rent hike that proved too steep to climb. And when those stories multiply, they become a new normal we pretend not to see. Santa Monica still photographs like a dream. But for thousands who now sleep on its sidewalks, that dream is out of reach, or never existed at all. Because in the end, if a society is judged not by its skyline, but by how it treats the people who sleep beneath it, we have to ask ourselves, what does it mean to call a place paradise if thousands are locked outside the gates? Number 2, compassion under pressure. Santa Monica is more than a beach town with golden sunsets and polished storefronts. It's also home to one of the most extensive social service networks in Southern California. On paper, it's a model of urban compassion. Emergency shelters offer warm beds, nonprofits serve hot meals every day, mobile clinics provide free checkups, mental health counseling, and addiction treatment. It's a system designed to catch people before they fall too far, and for many, it does just that. But when a safety net works too well in a world with too few of them, it begins to strain. because Santa Monica's support network has become something of a magnet. Word spreads across neighborhoods, across counties, across state lines. People hear there's food here, shelter, clean socks, a place where no one is instantly turned away. Some come by bus, others on foot. By early 2025, more than 65% of the unhoused population in Santa Monica reported they were originally from outside the city. That number isn't shrinking, it's growing, steadily, relentlessly. And the system once built to serve hundreds is now serving thousands. At the St. John's drop-in clinic, staff report seeing double the number of patients they did just 2 years ago. One caseworker, eyes rimmed with exhaustion, says she now spends half her shift telling people there's no room left for the night. By 6 p.m., most shelters are full. By 7, people are lining up for the next day. Clinics are turning people away not out of neglect, but necessity. Meanwhile, burnout among frontline workers is becoming its own quiet epidemic. This leads us to a difficult, almost uncomfortable question. Can a city be too humane? The more Santa Monica gives, the more it's asked to give. And while empathy doesn't expire, resources do. For longtime residents, the tension is real. There's pride in living in a place that leads with heart, but there's also frustration, sidewalks crowded with tents, increasing sanitation concerns, and the gnawing feeling that no matter how much is done, it's never enough. And maybe that's the paradox of compassion. The better a place is at helping, the more likely it is to be overwhelmed by need. But is the answer to give less, to build taller fences, or should we be asking why so few other cities are doing the same? Why Santa Monica is left to carry a burden that, in a just world, would be shared? Because no one city, no matter how wealthy or well-meaning, can solve a regional or national housing crisis on its own. Santa Monica now stands at a moral crossroads, not between kindness and cruelty, but between carrying the load alone or demanding a system where every community shares the weight. The real question isn't whether the city can keep giving, it's whether the rest of us will start. Number 3. Silent battles on the sidewalk. Behind every tent pitched on the sidewalk, there's usually more than just a story of lost housing. There's often an invisible storm raging inside the mind. In Santa Monica, nearly 30% of the unhoused population lives with severe mental illness. Over half struggle with substance use disorders. These aren't just statistics, they are open wounds, hidden in plain sight, shaped by trauma, abandonment, and a desperate search for relief. Mental illness makes stability feel out of reach. It disrupts routines, shatters relationships, and pushes people to the margins. In that spiral, drugs often become more than a temptation. They become a tool for survival, not joy, not thrill, just silence, a way to quiet the voices, numb the pain, warm the body against the cold concrete. But that kind of relief is temporary and expensive. It trades today's calm for tomorrow's chaos. On the ground, the services that could offer a way out are overwhelmed. Santa Monica's mobile mental health units do what they can, but appointments are booked weeks in advance. Clinics are underfunded, with long waiting lists for psychiatric evaluations, and emergency rooms, the place of last resort, offer only quick fixes and discharge instructions. Continuity of care is rare, for many, impossible. What's worse is that the streets themselves deepen the wounds. Living outside makes mental illness worse. Sleep is fractured, safety is uncertain, stress becomes chronic, and every day without treatment makes it harder to return to any kind of normal. This is why the crisis of homelessness cannot be solved with housing alone. We have to address what comes before the street: the breakdown in mental health care, the lack of early intervention, the stigma that still shames people into silence. We need systems that are proactive, not just reactive. Spaces where mental health support is accessible, compassionate, and ongoing, not buried beneath red tape or limited to those who can afford insurance. It's not just about building more clinics. It's about building a culture that doesn't whisper about addiction or mental illness, but talks about them the way we talk about cancer or a broken bone, as things that can be treated, as people who can heal. Because when you see someone curled up in a doorway, you're not just seeing homelessness, You're seeing a healthcare system that failed, a society that looked away, and a person who, with the right support, might not be there at all. If we want to truly fix what's broken, we can't just fight homelessness. We have to fight despair. Number 4. City of Riches, Streets of Poverty. Take a short walk through Santa Monica, and the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. On one side of the street, glass towers glint in the afternoon sun, shielding luxury condos with panoramic ocean views. On the other, a man sleeps beneath an overpass, wrapped in a thermal blanket, his back against concrete. This isn't just inequality, it's a collision. Santa Monica is a city of extremes. While venture capitalists toast cocktails on rooftop bars, gig workers bike past with food deliveries they can't afford to eat themselves. While tech executives move into smart homes, some longtime residents are being evicted from rent-controlled apartments they've lived in for decades. This isn't a backdrop, it's the front line of a deepening economic divide. The math says it all. Rent in Santa Monica now averages over $3,300 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. California's minimum wage, even at its highest, won't get a full-time worker close to affording that. Especially not when you factor in utilities, transportation, food, or childcare. But the issue isn't just about income, it's about access. Access to stable housing, to affordable healthcare, to opportunity. In many ways, the city has become a place where people serve luxury they'll never experience. A barista who makes your oat milk latte might sleep in her car. A janitor who cleans beachfront offices might drive 2 hours each way just to afford a one-bedroom in a distant inland suburb. The very people who keep the city running are the ones being pushed furthest to its edges, or out entirely. This imbalance isn't just uncomfortable, it's unsustainable. Because when a city becomes unlivable for anyone who isn't wealthy, it begins to lose its soul. The diversity, the community, the sense of shared experience all start to erode. The so-called California dream, once defined by mobility and possibility, starts to feel like a gated illusion. And yet, the city's image remains curated and pristine. Brochures sell a lifestyle of wellness and affluence. Influencers snap sunrise yoga sessions on the beach, but few point the camera toward the growing encampments just blocks away. The deeper question is this: what happens to a city when only the rich can stay? Who cleans the homes, serves the food, drives the buses, teaches the children? When everyday workers are priced out, a city becomes hollow. Beautiful on the outside, but brittle within. Santa Monica has long represented the promise of the West Coast: sunshine, progress, reinvention. But if that future is only available to the wealthy, then it's not really a future at all, at least not one that belongs to everyone. To reclaim that promise, we need more than charity. We need policy. Bold, structural change, zoning reform, affordable housing mandates, wage equity, things that shift power, not just sentiment. Because a dream that's only affordable to a few is no dream worth protecting. Number 5. Real solutions, real change. The crisis is real, but so are the solutions. If we're willing to stop patching symptoms and start addressing root causes, there's a path forward. And like most meaningful change, it begins with housing. Housing is not just a commodity. It's a foundation for health, safety, and dignity. If we want fewer people living on sidewalks, we need more places for them to live. Plain and simple. That means building more affordable housing, yes, but also confronting the policies that make it nearly impossible to do so. Outdated zoning laws, endless permit delays, and fierce local opposition, especially in wealthier neighborhoods, are all part of what fuels scarcity. To change that, we need to treat development as a public good, not a private inconvenience. Mixed-income housing, tiny home villages, modular units, these aren't fringe ideas anymore. They're working in cities like Houston, Helsinki, and even nearby San Diego. The resistance doesn't come from lack of options, it comes from fear. And it's time to replace "not in my backyard" with "what can we build together?" But housing alone won't solve a crisis that's rooted in more than square footage. Mental health support must be strengthened. Early intervention, addiction treatment, long-term counseling. These shouldn't be luxuries for the privileged. They should be baseline services available to all, because the earlier we intervene, the more lives we save, and the fewer people we see spiraling into the streets. Appointment is the other missing piece. Many unhoused people want to work. They want purpose, routine, stability, but they need tools, trade schools, apprenticeships, job placement programs that don't penalize past records or current addresses. Second chance hiring shouldn't be charity, it should be smart policy. Because when someone learns a skill, they gain more than income, they regain agency. And no single entity can do this alone. This is where public-private partnerships become more than buzzwords. Imagine a city government working hand in hand with a tech firm to create a mobile app that helps people find shelter beds in real time, or developers receiving tax credits for building inclusive housing, or local businesses offering job training in exchange for municipal support. Everyone has a role to play, and when those roles connect, real change becomes possible. But we also have to look beyond institutions. Ordinary residents, too, are part of the equation. Volunteering at a shelter, donating, advocating, voting for leaders who prioritize housing justice. These aren't small acts. They are the connective tissue that turns good ideas into collective momentum. Santa Monica has the wealth, it has the infrastructure, it has the heart. What it needs now is the will. A coordinated, relentless, compassionate will to make change happen. Not just in press conferences, but on actual. And maybe the better question isn't, can we fix this? It's what kind of city do we want to become, and what are we willing to do to get there? Number 6, the cost of looking away. A tent is never just a tent. It's a shelter, yes, but also a symbol of everything that came before. A lost job, an eviction notice, a medical bill too big to pay, and everything that's missing now. A front door, a hot shower, a safe place to sleep. These tents we pass on sidewalks aren't fabric and poles. They're people, names, memories, lives. Homelessness is not a distant crisis. It's here, in our cities, on our corners, steps away from our favorite cafes and grocery stores. It's a crack running straight through the heart of modern society, and the longer we pretend not to see it, the wider it gets. The first step is to stop looking away, to replace numbness with attention, because sympathy isn't enough. What we need is empathy with action. That means seeing people not as problems, but as neighbors. It means holding space for stories that don't fit neatly into headlines. And it means challenging the myths we've been told, that homelessness is always a result of laziness or addiction or bad choices. Most of the time, it's none of those. It's the math of survival in a system that was never built to be fair. But awareness is just the beginning. Change happens when awareness meets movement. It means voting for housing policies that center people, not just profits. Supporting local organizations that offer care, not judgment. Talking to our children about compassion, and to our neighbors about accountability. Donating, yes, but also showing up, speaking out, helping someone fill out a housing application, asking our cities the hard questions, and refusing to accept silence as an answer. Because no one chooses to be homeless, but we, collectively, choose whether to leave them there. The strength of a city isn't measured by its skyline or beachfront, but by how it treats those with no roof at all. If Santa Monica wants to live up to its postcard image, then it has to do more than look beautiful. It has to be just. And maybe justice begins with something simple. Believing that everyone deserves a door. And building a way back home. This isn't hopeless, it's a call to humanity. The crisis in Santa Monica is complex. There are no easy answers, no quick fixes, but let's be clear, it is not hopeless. What we're facing is not just a housing issue, it's a test of our compassion, our creativity, and our courage to act. And the good news, we do have the tools to respond. With empathy at the core, innovation in our approach, and genuine collaboration across every level, from City Hall to your neighborhood block, we can ease suffering. We can build a fairer, more inclusive society, and more than that, we can become a model for cities everywhere grappling with the same challenge. But here's the thing, This isn't just about they and them, it's about you. So ask yourself, would you support more affordable housing in your community, even if it meant changing your skyline? Could you spare a few hours to volunteer at a local shelter or food program? Or, maybe simplest of all, are you willing to share this story, to help others see the truth hidden behind the palm trees and sunshine? Because change doesn't always start with a government plan. Sometimes, it starts with a single shift in mindset, in heart, in action. Santa Monica doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to care enough to try. And if it does, then maybe this beachside city, once known only for sunsets and surf, can become something far more powerful. A place where no one is forgotten, where hope is rebuilt, where every person matters, and every tent becomes a story with a second chapter. If this story moved you, even just a little, feel free to leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your experiences, or even your ideas for change. And if you'd like to see more stories like this, where we dig deep into the truth behind the headlines, you're welcome to subscribe. It helps us keep these conversations going. And hey, if you think someone else should hear this too, go ahead and share it. Sometimes a small click can open a much bigger heart.